Love is all is love is all love is all is love is all.
Hello and welcome to Pray Love, hosted by Deb Maybury and Dave Rogers, who we appear here live on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. And Pray Love is a spiritual show, and I think we're getting into the heart of spirituality tonight because we're talking about our connection with animals. Hi, Dave. How you doing?
Feeling animalistic.
Animalistic. Thank you for the kayaking on the weekend. It was so much fun on Saturday to get out on the water with a couple friends and just experience that nature over at Toronto Island.
Serenity and peace.
It was so much fun. All right, let's begin. Land blessing, I'll turn it over to you.
We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties, is within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon, One Point Agreement. Mother Earth, Father Cosmos, all friends, ancestors, guides, and enlightened beings, please join us today for some insightful, enjoyable, and delicious and delightful conversation about the Spirit Hill Animal Sanctuary, and much, much more.
Thank you, Dave. So let me just turn this up and put that up, and then we're going to bring our guests into the stream tonight. Hi, Jan.
Welcome.
Hi. We'll do the formal, and then we'll go back to Jan. This is Dr. Jan Hill, professor, psychotherapist, and animal lover, who just established, I think it was correct me if I'm wrong, in January, established the Spirit Hill Farm Sanctuary, which is north of Bellville, Ontario. It is home to 28 animals and counting. I know there was just a baby born last week. As an academic, Jan specializes in issues related to identity construction and the effects of various social inequities on individual experiences and one's sense of self. This is a good fit for working as a registered psychotherapist with clients who are exploring the meaning of different life events and searching for a deeper connection to themselves and others. I just recommended somebody to you last week, actually. I thought it would be a perfect fit. Jan believes that clarity may be accelerated in the presence of animals who are natural healers. And I think we all know that. Everybody has an animal that they've fallen in love with, I hope, in their lifetime. The sanctuary will provide opportunities to connect with various individual animals who live there and enable one to connect more deeply with themselves. Welcome, Jen, my friend. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. This is so much fun.
I know. I'm so excited to talk to you because we haven't connected. I was just showing a picture earlier. The last time I spoke to you, you were talking. This is the picture. Jen was talking about selling her house, and then ultimately it was sold. But before that, you had bought this farm north of Bellville to realize your dream. Maybe share a little bit about that, how that came about. How long ago does that dream go?
Well, the dream is my forever dream of my whole life. You know, like when I was a kid, I wanted to be, like, my career aspirations were to be Dr. Dolittle. And, you know, honestly, I probably drove my family insane, making duck noises and cow noises and horse noises and ant noises and grasshopper noises and all the various kinds of millions of different noises in a desperate attempt to learn the languages of animals. But so it's always been in my heart. And, you know, I do believe that, I really do believe that we all have something, even if we've lost touch with what it is, that sits in our heart, that, you know, if the world were to be upside down and we had to, you know, make our little pods of people that we could only hang out with a few, that we would really need them to have this one quality. And for me, the one quality is to really be an animal lover, because I think animal lovers have a certain kind of empathy that's a little bit different than other people's empathy, or maybe no empathy at all, right? Right? And there's a truth in that. And I think my whole life I've kind of known that. But the intellectual part of me and the socialized part of me probably wanted to deny it. Go get a real job and stop hugging dogs all day long and crying on Wild Kingdom. Like that kind of thing that, where people raise their eyebrows. But yeah, so I guess now I'm here.
Right. So you were a professor at York for how long?
I went there in 86, and I started contract work in, the late 90s, sometime in there. So
we actually had overlap, because I was at York University 84 to 88, or 83, 84, 85. I went my second year at university, I transferred. So I was at York at the same time as you. And my plan was to go, take a little time, go back, get a master's degree at least. That's still in the works somewhere. But you did that. So you were quite the academic. So a little bit background there. And then how did you make that? Let's talk about that transition, and then we'll really get into talking about the farm.
Yeah. So I love to learn. And I always kind of said to myself, I would just stay in school for as long as the learning felt to me like it was facilitating my personal evolution. And so I've always been puzzled by human behavior. And I've always been puzzled by, maybe this is partly an animal thing, right? Where I kind of feel like I understand the rules of animals, the rules that the animals have when they relate to one another. It's just always seemed a lot more clear to me than the whole people stuff. And so I studied sociology, studied psych, then I studied sociology, women's studies, that kind of stuff. And that was kind of my main focus. Getting interested in how it is that we create our own sense of identity vis-a-vis the social organizations that we long to belong to, or that we do belong to and kind of reject, or those kinds of things. And then that kind of led me to equity studies and a whole bunch of other things. I consider myself a social theorist. So the academic place is where I do the social theory work, and being a psychotherapist is where I do the practical applications of what I understand sort of theoretically, I guess. Yeah. So, it's funny because it actually feels like I'm that person. But that person used to be a very big part of me. And now that person is a very small part of me. And the animal sanctuary person is the big part of me, right? So in a way, like I haven't even unpacked my books, like normally I'd move somewhere and I'd be like, get that office set up and, that sort of thing. And I haven't even gone to my office at the university to collect my books from there to bring them here. They still sit in boxes, and I can't even think of my 5 favorite books, right? Like if you'd asked me that question like a year ago, I'd be 5, only 5, right? What are you talking about? Here's my list of 150 favorite books, right? So yeah, so it just really shows me how in the moment, a lot of my own sense of identity was, or how my own sense of identity was actually linked to the tasks that I did. Right.
Isn't that true of all of us through the course of our life? The 3 of us for sure. I mean, it's like you have this part of your life where you were identified as this, and then you were that, and you were identified by that and that. And as I reflect back, it's kind of like, well, I was always this person, even though people have these different roles that they put you in. They assume you're a certain way based on a role.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. I know. In my academic life, I tried to incorporate more and more like transhuman stuff, a lot of stuff on animal rights, animal identity, sacred animal contracts, stuff like that. I would include a lot of that and a lot of the energetic, spiritual stuff. over the last, maybe the last 15 years, it became increasingly more sort of laden with that. And then I'd be like trying to jam into an equity studies class or something, you know, all these other things that well, let's consider animals. And, you know, and then I'd be trying to stretch the framework a little, right? So, yeah.
Well, Dave?
Which animal totem is influencing you most these days?
Oh, what a good question. Only one?
No, actually, it could be 1, 2, or 3. They usually have a good team approach. So I have a feeling you got quite a team.
Yeah, my team for sure. Okay, so it just happened to be the animals that are living here, plus a few extras. So my dogs, of course, I've had dogs my whole life. And my dogs bring me a sense of security and connection. And my dogs right now are very different personalities. And I'm going to cry when I think about it. So I have one who's a little bit afraid, but she just runs everywhere. Like she's just free spirit, right? And she just races across the hay fields and stuff like that all the time. And she's, you know, busy chasing the goats and being a little bit bad sometimes, right? And but it's all like, hey, I'm wild. And the other one, she's like very she's just very like, hey, let's hang, man, and let's go, you know, let's check out the tractor, and now let's go here. So she's kind of like, you know, a real connected kind of dog, you know. And it's not that she doesn't want to do anything wrong, it's just that she's wrong, right? But she's just never done anything wrong. Because
who's the one that got into the porcupine?
Okay. I need to retract that then. Okay, she did a few little things. But yeah, that was a series of events. That one. Yeah, there was three encounters with that porcupine on 3 separate days. So yeah, Odella, Mabel, Odella again. Yeah, it was yeah. The second totem would be horses, because horses are strong. You know, horses are so sensitive. They are like, I think of them as like land dolphins. You know, they are like so tuned into everything, and they are so strong, and yet they are so gentle. And the horses I have here, 2 of them came from a rescue organization in Kitchener, actually in St. Jacobs. So a woman named Jackie Michelle gets them from auction, basically, as they are discarded by people, and they end up in the kill pens, and she rescues them from there. And so 2 of my guys came through her, and one I feel has sort of the shadow with him of some abuse and some sadness, you know. And the other one is he's just here. I'm here now, and I'm a bit confused about how I got here, but I'm okay, you know. And then the third horse remained here on the farm, as the farm has changed ownerships a few times. And I don't know a lot about that horse, but she's just totally solid, you know. So I feel like horses. And then the energy of the universe for me is mischievous, right? There's mischief in the universe. And that's how crazy things just show up in your life. It's just through the universe being mischievous. And that is goat energy for me. So I'd say that the 3 totems are goats, who, man, if there's mischievous stuff out there, they are going to get into it, right? And
there you go. There's your mischievous. You can tell that story.
That's Cameron. So Cameron is he's about, I guess he's a year and a bit now. I've kind of lost track, but he's beautiful, and he reminds me of a soccer player. He's like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm beautiful. Are you looking at me? Are you looking at me? And then as soon as something small or big goes wrong, he doesn't make a noise like a regular, you know, meh, would, right? He screams. So his tongue hangs out, and he opens his mouth really wide, and he goes, ah! So he got his head stuck in the fence, and it was this great tragedy, right? Great tragedy. Ah! Screaming his head off, right? And the alpacas were guarding him to make sure nobody bothered him too much while he was having his drama. But he's a great little guy. Yeah, mischievous.
How did you get then? So what's plan? Any animal that needs support? Because I know you ended up having, I think it's 3 goats recently that were actually born there. So are these other, like, are the mommies, are they the rescues? Is there a plan? Like, what's the plan in terms of how many animals you will acquire? Like, what is sustainable, and how do you see it in the future?
Well, there's 50 acres and there's a stable. And I'm adding to the stable now, but there's just lots of room to grow. So I don't know the answer to that, Deb. And I'm kind of terrified that I don't know the answer to that. I'm waiting for the land in a way to give me a vision. So I have a vision of it, you know, like, it's funny, right? I showed up and I go, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And it's in the middle of winter and I'm chipping out fences and trying to figure out how a tractor works. And I don't know what I'm doing. And I ran into the back of my own barn a couple of times and almost ripped the door off a few times. And I thought, okay, Jan, you just stop being an idiot and just wait. Just rest.
Can I interrupt you there? Because right now, because you've already jumped to the next part, you're already on the farm. Would you be willing or able to share the story or the miracle or the synchronicity or serendipity that got you to Bellville?
Okay, sure. Okay, so so COVID hit and we went into lockdown, and it was the end of the winter term at school, and it was exhausting and it was frustrating, and I had hundreds of students, and it was just unbelievably dysfunctional. And I felt like I was trying to hold space for so many people's distress. And of course I have full practice, right? So, and the workload was just astounding. And then instead of taking a step back, because I'm not good at that, I jumped in even more. And then the spring, summer term came, and I was teaching like a huge number of students in across 2.5 courses. And so that workload is astounding because, you know, you got to do videos, you got to do all this, right? So in the middle of all that, I drive out to Winnipeg to pick up my mother, who's moving back to Ontario, and we're driving back, and I had an eye irritation before I left. A week later, I'm driving back with her, and my face is like swelling up, and I've never had an eye infection before, but it was really bad, and it started to move to this eye. And in fact, I still have big circles under my eyes left over from that infection. Long story short, I ended up in emergency during COVID, which was pretty empty, and 3 times in emergency. The third time I spent, I can't remember, 24 hours thereabout. And the infection was so bad, I'd lost all my vision in this eye, and I'd lost about 70% in this eye. So it was horrible. And it was horrible. So I'm lying on this gurney, and they're just giving me a lot of antibiotics. And I didn't realize I was allergic to antibiotics, at least.
Oh, no.
So yeah, so there's nobody in there, right? In the room with me. I'm lying there. And then I just don't even know what's happening. I just feel myself kind of shaking, right? In the room with me. I'm lying there, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm having an allergic reaction to antibiotics. And I'm thinking, what's going on? And am I going to die from this? What a crazy way to die. What an anticlimactic way to die, right? And it's at that moment, so I'm shaking, and at least that's what I believe is happening, right? And my dad shows up, and he's standing there, and he's looking like he's about 35 years old. And I'm like, wow, okay. And I say to him, am I going to die like this, as I'm convulsing away? And I can't speak. And he says, well, you can if you want. Come on, like, it's fine. Just leave if you want. And I'm thinking, oh, what a great opportunity to get off this rock, right? And I can see past him, I can see a whole bunch of the animals and stuff like that I've had in my life, and everybody's hanging out at the park, and I'm thinking, well, this is really good, actually. I could just go. And I'm thinking about the really nice nurse who left me there, and I'm thinking, oh, she might get in trouble. And I'm thinking about my dogs, and I'm thinking about all this other stuff. I'm not thinking about my job, but I'm thinking about that stuff. And my dad says to me, is your work, I guess the real question is, Jan, is your work done? And I said, no, done. I haven't even started. So he says, well, there's your answer. You can come later. And because my dad's been dead, this is the part I forgot to tell you, he's been dead about 3 years, right? So I say, oh, okay, what do I need to do? And he said, just call out and someone will come. And I didn't think I could call out. I remember thinking, I don't know how to move my mouth, right? And at that time, then I start hearing some commotion around me, and I can hear people talking to me. And at some point, I remember saying something like, I don't know if I'm talking or whether I'm thinking I'm talking. And I remember the doctor saying, no, now you're talking. So keep talking. So anyway, that was my story of sort of what sparked that. When I got out of the hospital, the eye infection had actually gone to the back of my eye, and it was quite significant, I guess. And so anyway, I ended up having to take some time away from work because I couldn't see, and gave it a lot of thinking, slept a lot, that sort of thing. And I got back on realtor.ca and started looking around, and a farm that I had seen about 2.5 years earlier that I thought was out of my geographical range. I was looking in a different range. It was in my price range. It was cute. It was great, but it was out of my geographical range. Was back on MLS. And I thought, is that the same place? Because it had just disappeared. And yeah, it was the same place. And it turns out that the people who obviously owned the place before me had bought it. And they had put a lot of work into it. They'd fixed, the roof and the windows and all those things that when I had seen it, I thought, oh no, I'm too tired to do the roof and the windows and the furnace and all this stuff. So they basically done all that work for me. And then they put it back. They had to move, and they put it back. And they were the ones who had rescued from Jackie, had rescued these 2 other horses, and were looking after Taz, the 3rd horse who was here. They're lovely people. And they've helped me a lot. When they moved, they left all the tack, they left the hoses, they left everything. They left like 13 bags of horse food. They left 9 big rolls of hay, everything to get me through the winter. And I mean, they are so generous because I didn't know what I was doing. I just showed up and thought, okay, it's just got to work because it's my dream. And I don't know how it would have worked if they hadn't been so generous. So, the time, the people, the place, everything came together. So that's how I got here.
Thank you for sharing.
Beautiful.
There you go.
Such a beautiful story. And I know, excuse me, whoever's watching this, most people would know that, Jen's posting videos every day or every other day, the progress and the different obstacles that you've had, to overcome, whether it's driving a tractor or finding salamanders, scary things on your property. It's like, what are these creatures? But, at different times you mentioned different people supporting, somebody's helping, learn how to plow the fields. Somebody's putting up structures. And what are some of those things that you've done on the land thus far?
Wow. Well, yeah. So this is the thing. I'm here by myself, but I'm not here by myself, right? Because there were people who helped me, Milena Seesmar, sell my house in the middle of COVID lockdown. That all came together on the very sort of last day, right? There were people who helped me move. And there were people who, like Cody, who one of the ghosts is named after, who helped me finish stuff in the house and fix all those things. I had apartments in the house, everything, all the little broken things, and paint, and, tirelessly. And then, and then I got here, and my friends have come. The inside's a mess. I still haven't unpacked, but like outside and stuff, it's just people have come and they've helped me mucking out the barn and figuring out the horses and doing all sorts of things like that in the beginning, right? And now we have my friend Carrie has come with her partner Randy, who turns out to be like this master carpenter. So I put him to work, and he's built me a beautiful big, gigantic run-in for horses. So there's going to be some more horses coming. And I'm creating another pasture using one of the older hay fields to create another pasture / paddock for the horses as I get more and more of them. The vegetable garden, it's 100, and last time I measured it, it keeps getting bigger. 100. Yeah, that's it. See, and you can see in the back, you can see the horse shelter being built. So we have to build all the fencing, and obviously there'll be fencing between the garden and the horse shelter because the horses won't just help themselves, right? But yeah, so the garden is 110 feet by, I think, by 42. So, you know, planting that, first of all, tilling it up and yeah, I don't even know the language anymore, right? Like, I don't even know what it's called, but tilling it up and picking all the rocks out, picking out all the weeds, then planting, and then putting up those greenhouses, all that kind of stuff. I bought a used trailer from a lovely person who, it's a 28-foot Bel Air. It's old, but Carrie's been, you know, helping get that going and trying to figure out how to get we got some solar panels, and she's been figuring out how to do that. And, you know, so it's, you know, the kindness of people, right? Shiva's been up here. You know, Malaya's been up here. People you'll see on my videos, everybody's been helping do all sorts of different things. So, yeah, we had to build some manure sheds because I want to create a composting system so I can sell off the, you know, 150 pounds of horse poop I get a day. You know, like that sort of thing, right? I get a lot of.
I hear that the alpacas, their waste is valuable. I hear. How many alpacas do you have?
Just 2, but in September I'll get 4 more. They're coming from a trekking company that's going. They're selling off their resources, so 4 more boys.
They're adorable. I just spent last Sunday with Charmaine Lovren for the ALS walk, and her sister has bought these alpacas, and it was my first time being that close with them. And she has 6 of them, I think it was. And they're males, and then she's going to be getting a couple of females too. So, I mean, they're beautiful. The animals, are you going to use them as therapeutic animals or?
Yeah. So so your question about, you know, kind of what am I going to do with these guys or what's going to happen here is the goats that have given birth here, and there's 1 more to go. They've all come pregnant. So I don't really have any intention of raising them or putting them in the, you know, in the cycle where they end up at somebody else's farm and then they end up for meat or something like that, right? I don't want any of that. If they come here, they stay, and I'll just look after them for, you know, their lifetime. So with the alpacas, so it started off with the horses would be therapy horses, and they're fantastic horses for this, right? So that's great. However, some people are afraid of horses because they're gigantic, right? So I love goats, so I think, okay, well, I get some therapy goats, right? Like that sort of thing.
Goat yoga.
What's it? Goat yoga, exactly.
Goat yoga.
Right? Exactly, right? So that's possible. For the goats. And then, you know, I've always been interested in alpacas. They are just hilarious. And so they just kind of came along. So I have no intention of breeding any or anything like that. They're just delightful to hug. Right? Like, all of them are delightful to hug. It's hard to find enough time in the day to snuggle everybody. I was going to say,
how, like, you posted something the other day where you're up at 5:30 to do 3 hours of chores and then something else during the day, building this, doing that, constructing this, and then like evening chores.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe share just a little bit. What is your typical day? Just sort of from what time to what time, and what does your day consist of?
Okay, that's a great question. So my typical day is it starts and ends with barn chores, right? And pasture paddock stuff, right? So you got to you get up in the morning, and I go out with the dogs. I feed my cats, feed all the inside animals, and then I go out to the barn, and then I'm gone for several hours. The chores basically stayed the same, although some I do only 2 days, like changing the water tanks and stuff like that. I do that usually every 2 days instead of every day. But I scoop stuff out every day to make sure it's clean. But yeah, you gotta feed everybody. You gotta change the water and stuff in the barn. You gotta muck out the stalls. You have to. I've just started wetting the hay. I took all the hay out of the paddock for the horses because I want to control the hay more. One of the horses has a cough, so I just now I fill up wagons. And I wet it all down and I pull it out in my little yard works wagons 3 at a time. And it's and then I go around with my wheelbarrow and I scoop all the poop out, about 150 pounds a day or more. And then sometimes I do hooves. They need a little trimming. Sometimes I had to, one of the goats, her udder is a little lopsided, so I had to milk the heavy side. So you do that in between. Keep an eye on the babies, make sure that the hawks circling above aren't thinking of them. That's kind of like my morning. And then in the evening, it's again, barn chores, just putting everybody to bed, getting the stalls ready, making sure, like if it's raining or something like that, the horses have to come in. I try to get bug spray on the horses at night. They don't really like the bug spray, but we just try. Filling up making sure they have hay for the night.
Are you in the best shape of your life?
I wouldn't say the best shape of my life, but I would say that, like my average day on my Fitbit is like 30,000 or more steps. Because in the afternoon, like by the time I get in at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm in here, and then I either have clients. If I have clients, then I've got clients from 10 till maybe 5, and then I run back out, do a few things, or I do a few things in between, right? And what I'll do in between that precious half hour is water the gardens, or do the few things that I might not have been able to do in the morning, or change out, maybe go to the feed store, change out the feed buckets, stuff like that, right? But then I have bigger tasks like this one. Yeah, so I went to Ottawa to get, those are for fence posts, right? So I went to just Smith Falls to get that. I've made, I think, 4 or 5 runs now, and I have a trailer that I attached to the back of that Tundra, and we just load it. So there was a total of, I think there was a total of 90 posts, and that took me about 4 hours to get them out. I'm slow because I'm older. If I was 20, it would be great, but I'm 59. So like, I'm always saying, like, don't break your hand, Jan, or you're going to be in real trouble. So I just decide I'm going to take my time. If it took 2 days, it takes 2 days. If it takes whatever, it takes whatever. So yeah, I would like kind of get them over the side. Like I could lift half of them easily. So I'd get them over the side, and then I'd roll them off the back of the truck and let them bounce wherever they wanted to be. So, and then I kind of roll them in place. But
who was it? I think it was maybe Shiva or somebody said, why don't you like say you're going to be doing this in 2 weeks and then put it out there for a few people to help you a little bit. Like Dave.
Well, definitely using the art and science of manifestation, yet maybe the lesson of divine timing is still dancing with you with elegant ease.
Exactly. Well, though, part of it is I feel like I need to be able to do all these things myself, because if it turns out that as much as it's great to have help, don't get me wrong, just come on up, anybody, right? Anytime, right? But at the same time, yeah.
This is Deb's favorite part of the show. It's the magical 33-minute moment when Deb or I ask a question, and it seems that Deb's wonderful question of the day is go ahead, Deb.
What is the funniest thing that's happened on the farm? I know you've had some trying things, with water freezing, and here we go. But what is something that you just, we say laughed your ass off at? Farm experience.
Everything's funny. Everything's funny. You know, okay, so this didn't happen on the farm, but when I go into the feed store, I ask the guy who runs the feed store all my stupid questions. And so here's the stupidest question I've ever asked, but I didn't honestly know. So, and he just, yeah, he's so kind to me. So I asked him if I had to worry about goats killing baby goats like cats do, right? And he kind of poker face, you know, just sort of looks at me. His name's Terry, lovely man. He just kind of looks at me and says, nope, never heard of that happening. And so afterwards, of course, I go, I better go home and research that. So, you know, you check out Dr. Google, right, to see what's going on with that. And then I realized how stupid my question really was, right? But that was probably the funniest moment. I don't know, everything's funny. I don't know, everything's
let me spin it a little bit then.
Okay.
What animal language do you feel you're becoming most proficient at?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay. So goats, I feel like I have an intuitive connection with. They don't really surprise me. I'm dismayed sometimes to leave the room and come back and find utter chaos, right? They've ripped into the, you know, horse coats or something like that, or somehow they broke into the feed room and there's, you know, stuff everywhere. So, but I get that. I totally get it, right? The language that I feel like I'm really coming to understand is horses. So I only rode horses for about 5 years. I never had my own horse. So I never had to look after a horse. All I had to do was show up, pay somebody, jump on the horse, and they would tell me how to ride them better, you know, over this little tiny jump. And I was never very good because all I ever really wanted to do was hug the horse anyway. So I feel like when I came here, it was set up so that you could feed the horses over the fence. So I was actually kind of afraid to go in. I was actually afraid to go in the horse pen or the paddock or whatever it's called, for quite a while. And I would go in and I would move around them very cautiously. And, you know, of course, they knew I was a total newbie. So I think some of them, Donnie definitely tried to take advantage of that and did. And now I just feel like now we just hug all the time. Like I just get them and they get me. And I think they've accepted me. You know, I think that for me is, I feel like crying. I love them so much.
Do they like your analogy that I have like land dolphins? When you say you're sort of like a land dolphin, what do they say back to you?
Say, excuse me, I'm not like anybody else. We're horses.
Okay.
And you know, what do you know about dolphins, Jan? Like, you know, like really? Right?
Everything I've Googled. You know, I have a really funny horse story, short and sweet. So my cousin, my uncle, Vic and Aunt Muriel, they had a farm. So when I was really young, we would go out there when my mother was going to work or whatever, she'd leave us there. And there were 9 cousins and my aunt and uncle and horses and chickens and cows, typical kind of farm. So one day my cousin Larry says, okay, let's go out on the horse and we'll go to the backfield and we'll have a race back. And he says, I'll ride June, which was then these are ponies, by the way, not horses. I thought they were ponies, but years later, somebody told me they were ponies, not horses. So we go to the back and we face away from the barn. So I'm on Lightning and no saddles. Like these are all, you ride bareback. So we're facing away from the barn. And then Larry says, okay, now I'll even give you a bit of a head start and I'll say go. But he's on the smaller pony. So he goes go and he starts to turn June, and Lightning turns so quickly and heads to the barn faster than I ever dreamed. And I was on the ground because when she turned, she completely surprised me. And I went flying and just crashed to the ground. That was my funniest sort of farm moment as a child. But I too loved horses and ponies. Absolutely adored them. Dave, were you ever on a farm at any time in your life?
Well, my dad was raised in a farm in Oshawa, and so very much farmer Harv, and we'd go to the farm quite regularly. Yet, Jan, the similar story about the horse in the paddock is that when I was 12 years old, 13 years old, my relatives thought I would be good to become a jockey. And so when you're doing an interview to be an apprentice jockey, I was about 4'5" and very short at that time. They took me at 6 a.m. for the interview at Woodbine. And the interview basically, you go talk to the horse. And so within 15 seconds, I expressed a little bit of angst and shyness or fear. Immediately, the guy said, interview over. Nah, you're not going to be a horse person, because a horse person would go and hug the horse, and that energy would just be set. So that interview really was the fastest interview of my life. It closed down that field. Yet the horse energy is still very much in my lineage, because my uncle was a horseman, and like he even lost his big thumb. It was bitten off by a horse. And so the whole energy around horses, like his winning horse called Debbie Dish, the statue of that horse, and he's passed over about 25 years ago, is actually in my little cave now. And I regularly pray to my uncle and to the horse, and so it's very much a welcoming with energy. Yet there's a natural energy that some of it's warmth and some of it's not, and that animals pick it up like that.
Yeah, totally right. Actually, I do have your horse stories have reminded me of a funny thing. Actually, this was the best day of my life, I think. The best day of my life. So I got a skid steer instead of a tractor, which I don't know if that was smart or not, but I had driven a forklift before, so I thought, okay, I can drive that. So it's all totally this machine to be able to raise those big bales. So I was kind of like, oh, I don't know. I haven't done this in like 40 years, but it's in the barn. Had it in the barn. So I go in there, I change into the forks and I'm like, ugh. And then I, spear the bale and I get it out this tiny little door where seriously there's like this much room on either side and didn't crash. And I'm like, this is great. I get it around, get it into the paddock, and I had separated the horses. There's a fence between the two spaces that they use. There's like 8 acres in total that they run around, but there's a fence right down the middle, and I made sure they were on the other side, right? Because who knows? I didn't want to run into them or what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. So I got the skid steer in there, and I got the bale of hay up, and everything's going like really, really slowly. And the horses are like running along the fence going, we're starving. We want our new bale of hay, right? They're all excited and they're hanging their head over and they're watching this loser drive this tractor really, really slowly, right? And I get it up, I get it over the big ring, and I'd never done it before. I never dropped anything into this big ring. I'm thinking, oh no, what happens? It's going to crush the ring. Boom. And it goes right in perfectly. I could not believe it. But here's the best part. I'm like, right? And the horses go, ee! And they all go up on their back legs. And they go like, yeah! And they run around.
Score!
I look at them, open the window. It's freezing cold in January. I'm like, yeah! And they're like, yeah! The idiot did it! Right? So it was great. And then I ran and I let them in. I thought we can all celebrate together. And then they were all excited. And I got scared and I ran back and I hid inside the shell of the thing. I'm like, oh no, they're running around too much. But anyway, it was fantastic. Best day of my life. Yeah.
Spirit Hill Animal Sanctuary. Where and in what way did that come through you, and why did you call it that?
What a good question. So I asked people on Facebook, what should we call it? And there were a lot of really great suggestions. And then my cousin out west, who has his own farms, he suggested Spirit Hill. And I think he was sort of, just kind of riffing off of a few other ones that had come earlier. And there was just something that totally resonated with me around it. And the funny thing is there's no hill here other than me, I guess, but there's no real hill here. But we're at the top of, we're at the top of a long, slow incline up the Canadian Shield, basically, right? And so when you stand here, like, it looks flat, it looks very flat out here. But if you drive off the property, it's sort of this slow grade down. And I thought, well, that's kind of a hill, right? Sort of a hill. So that seemed to fit the bill for me. But I don't know. I just loved it because it just feels like, it's all about animal heart, right? Like the heart of the animal, and connecting with our own, connecting our own hearts with the animal spirit and embracing our own animal spirit. So Spirit Hill just made sense to me,
Yeah, I was watching along as people were, I can't remember, I had some ideas and I can't remember if I put them in or not, but when I heard ultimately Spirit Hill, I thought, wow, that's amazing. I thought it was such a perfect name, sort of the play on hill and hill. And I just thought it was a fabulous name. Now you're going to be, actually, there's a question I want to ask you before this other one. How are you different being on this farm?
How am I personally different?
How's it impacted you?
I think I'm just myself. I think, because I know we've known each other a long time. So I have spent so much of my life in here and, always working with ideas. I love ideas. Like I'm never lonely. I'm never alone because I always am in my mind, right? But there's a part of me that's always really longed. Like I long for the earth. I'm one of those people who, as an urban person, is just, I ache for the earth, and I ache for the grass, and I ache for the trees, and I just have this longing in my heart. So I just every day I just get up and go, oh, thank God. I don't know how I ended up here. Like, I know the story of it, but like, how could all these things happen in the order that they happened in such a crazy way, to just sort of all of a sudden, but not really for, years and years I've been planning it, but all of a sudden everything just comes together to be here. Like, how does that happen?
Well, let me ask the question then, Jen. The question might be to Deb. Deb, in what ways do you see Jen different now than as a fellow classmate? And from your perspective, what would be, from your perspective, how it happened that she's there where she is?
Well, I think it happened when she began, there was a lot of clarity around it, and there was a decision made, because I think the last time we were actually talking, it's been a while, was when you had jumped in, you had bought the farm, but you hadn't sold the house. And here we are in COVID, and Jen had an incredible location, big house, but it was divided into apartments. So for some people that would look like a lot of money in order to get that into a single family home. And, I even looked at it and thought, oh yeah, but certain amount of money, certain place of the city. But I think it was when she made that commitment, really solid commitment, to make that happen. And even if the house didn't get sold, well, how are we? And I was like, okay, well, could we get a group of people together? Because people would like to be involved as therapists. I love the idea of what you're doing. Absolutely. So it wouldn't have taken much if the house didn't get sold for me to somehow get involved. But what I see with Jan that's slightly different. So Jan is this academic. Absolutely. There's so much information. We would be in class, right? And the teacher would respond. We had a wonderful teacher. I loved it. Loved the teachers, loved the classmates. But there would be this pause, and then just Jan would be like this, and Jan would like just solidify everything and pull out the heart out of, this area in life and that area of life. So what I've seen in watching all the videos is that passion and that knowledge that she had in those areas, that it has sort of been softened in a sense and it's gone sort of from here so cerebral, to really dropping into the heart. And I listened to you talk about, when the goats got your mittens and ate your mittens, and she's laughing and she's giggling. She has a great sense of humor anyways, but there's a lighterness there and there's a focus, there's the creator, you're still being stimulated, all the things that you have to do and come up with, right? The ideas, whether it's about your coaching program or psychotherapy, but now it's so much about the farm. So, I mean, that's what I feel is the biggest shift. And it's been amazing. Sometimes I'm watching, even when you're like, you're going to tear, I tear, because it's like a lot of people have dreams and a lot of people don't realize those dreams. And I just saw that so much in you at school when you were talking about York, and there was a time for that, but the real passion in you was to get to the animals and to this dream, and it's realized, and it's just mind-boggling how much work you've done and how much there is to do. I can't wait. I'll send you. I figured out when I'm coming, so I'll send you that for the weekend. Yeah. So looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think softened is a great way to describe it. Like as we go through our life, and I feel like everything that I've learned intellectually is just applied here. And I love having a puzzle that I have to figure out. And I love something, not that I like it when things break, but I like it when I go, oh, that's broken. How do I fix that? I like that. And I like being here. I like being here on my own in many ways, because it's funny, in the city, I was afraid to be on my own. I was afraid, like people might break in. And here in the middle of nowhere, right? Nowhere, I have zero fear. And it's funny. And I think, well, why is that? And I think it's because I feel like the land holds me. The animals hold me. They keep me safe, and they keep me safe in, they keep the real me, right? The authentic part of me safe. I think my neighbors probably think I'm crazy. And that's, totally. Yeah. They drive by at 6 o'clock in the morning and I'm out in the paddock, and they drive by at 9 o'clock at night and I'm out in the paddock. And, they're like, there's that crazy city lady. We're going to see how long she lasts, right? But honestly, every second of it, and sometimes, like, I have a lot of energy. I've always had a lot of energy, for sure. But, sometimes my hands, like from moving all those cedar posts, my hands this morning, like, they're killing me. But still, you go out to the barn, you start working, and you just forget about it. And then they stop hurting. Like every morning, it's just like, wow, I get to be here. Like how
awesome is that, huh?
I know, right? And what's even better is I get to be here and share all the things that are so beautiful about this place with people that I love, that I know, and people that I will love that I don't know yet, right? And all I want, if I want anything, all I want is for people to come here and stand with their mouth open, but not too open because the flies will go in, right? But open enough to go, holy shit, this place is awesome. And the land is beautiful, and the animals, right? So they can feel themselves waking up. That's all I want.
We had one question about animal totems and that, and I guess I just want to pick this up for you because I think it taps into some of the energy that you're expressing so beautifully. And Deb's question was also aligned. So you mentioned the dogs, and they give you this beautiful security, and it just is such a beautiful connection with the dogs. And then you mentioned the horse. Then that horse is the strength, and it's this beautiful dynamics of land dolphins who are nurturing your spirited soul. And then you have your goats, and you got your mischievousness, you got your naughtiness, and you get to laugh your ass off. And there is this beautiful other parts of the family that are all coming in and providing you with this beautiful jigsaw that each one of your energy sources are being nurtured in such a beautiful way.
Oh, thank
you. I'm thanking you very much, because anyone who's watching this today, I'm really inviting them to explore that nature, explore that animal, explore the tears in a beautiful way, because that's what your soul manifested with those beautiful animals that were a big part of the manifestation. I have that beautiful feeling that they've been calling you and, and they're patient. And those goats will stick their head where it doesn't belong.
Yeah.
It's amazing. We have about only 5 minutes left, Jan. So it's just an animal sanctuary, but I know that you're looking at it as a retreat as well. Like, what's the vision? Do you have some people lined? I think did you have the Reiki retreat? Did that happen?
Yeah, so we had with Sonia Bellon, who's a fantastic animal Reiki person. Actually, she was here just last week hanging out. She's a wonderful person. And so we had planned it for June, just in the middle, just as lockdown, So we decided to postpone it probably to August or September. And that's actually okay, because my plan is to create some, I want to build some tiny houses on the way over there on the back. And then people will have a place to stay. I'm a little bit far from the city, not too far, but a little bit far from, an Airbnb or stuff like that. And also people would like to have, I think people would like to have more of a farm experience. So I'm hoping they would at least. And so, yeah, the trailer that I bought, I'm converting into sort of a kitchen and going to build a giant deck and a pizza oven and stuff like that out there. So when we have classes, we can all meet on this giant deck. And, and there'll be a bathroom there and stuff like that. So people the farmhouse is not big, and, it would be too crazy to have too many people in here. But yeah, so that's the goal, is to put over in the wooded areas, maybe 3 or 4 different tiny houses. And then people can come and hang, and it will likely be a pay what you can kind of thing. And people can pay in farm labor. But they have to work. They can't sit around and pretend they're working. They have to really work, right? So a couple hours a day, get a bed, have some pizza, right? Like that sort of thing, and just enjoy being here, right? And I will too also be running my own couples therapy stuff, but also some workshops on empathy building. If trauma shuts down empathy often, so the animals will be really great. The animals want to help do that work, and I believe, and so it'll be great. And also, when all your friends are therapists, there's never-ending opportunities for people to come up and have their own workshops. I'm hoping to have some weekends where we can do, I'm into alien stuff, right? So we can do like alien observation things. I've got a friend who can come up and do that with her night vision goggles and stuff like that. And we can do drumming circles. And
that would be incredible.
All sorts of great fun things like that. I'm building a walking labyrinth and all that stuff like that. Planting blueberries. You can come and, And then my hope is that I'll have enough food that when everybody leaves, they can leave with a basket of food that they picked from the garden.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
What a brilliant non-plan.
Maybe I'll have a little shop. All my friends who are artists can hang stuff in the shop, and people can take away little lovely things that they have from here. So
a beautiful vision. Beautiful vision.
Beautiful. Any final thoughts, Jen? We're just a minute left or so, I think, here. Any final thoughts?
No, just thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right? Come visit.
I am going to come visit. I've got the date. I'll send it to you right afterwards. I'll send you, or actually just stay on. We'll do the getting out of here, and then just stay in the studio and we'll just talk right after, just for a few minutes. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Dr. Jen Hill, Spirit Hill Sanctuary, Farm Sanctuary. It's so nice to talk to you. And I can't wait to get down that way in 2 or 3 weeks. And thank you to anybody who's watching Pray Love this evening. Thanks for your comments. And we really appreciate you partaking in this wonderful interview this evening. Dave, thank you Once again,
Yes.
as always,
As just one little comment would be, anyone who's enjoyed today, please consider taking a look at it on YouTube, share it, and we'll put in Jen's details also there, and they can reach out, and we can start letting people know of this beautiful Spirit Hill Farm Sanctuary in Ontario, because I have a feeling there's going to be some wonderful spirits that will be joining and visiting it. So thank you so much.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much, everybody. Thank
Good night.
Love is all